end. I'm Dick Iuliano.
Latest on Virginia for you.
Will the indoor mask mandate in Montgomery County be reinstated? We have some answers. I'm Shayna Stulin.
When do kids have to quarantine? Montgomery County Schools introduced new guidelines. I'm Kate Ryan.
It's 8 o'clock.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper in Chicago. President Biden joins leaders from around the world in Glasgow, Scotland, and calls on them to take quick action to fight climate change. However, CBS's Nancy Cordes reports the top polluters didn't even bother to show up.
It is two other big polluters, China and Russia, whose heads of state chose not to attend. Together, those countries and India are responsible for more than half the world's emissions, yet they've rejected the 2050 goal.
There's a reason why people should be disappointed in that. I found it disappointing myself.
It's been a tiring few days of diplomacy for Mr. Biden, convincing other nations to cut methane emissions and stop financing foreign coal-fired power plants.
Outside the U.S. Supreme Court today,
Roe v. Wade is crumbling.
And inside, justices heard oral arguments on the Texas abortion law that bans the procedure at the first detection of cardiac activity. Loyola Law Professor Lori Levinson.
The argument before the court today was a procedural argument. The focus was on who can challenge the Texas law and whether or not the Texas law was a deliberate attempt to get around the ordinary review of the laws.
CDC data shows that more than 80% of Americans first vaccinated against COVID with Johnson & Johnson have switched to Moderna or Pfizer for their booster shot. CBS's Alexander Tin reports.
Federal health officials have said it was likely safe and effective to get any of the 3 currently authorized booster shots. But FDA scientists have also repeatedly cautioned that it was possible long-term protection could be better from a second dose of Johnson & Johnson, even if antibodies appear to jump higher in the short term among those who switched.
Florida school districts are starting to relax their mask policies. More from CBS's Peter King.
The latest large district to back off of restrictions is Miami-Dade. Superintendent Alberto Carvalho says middle and high school students can now opt out. Younger students will have to wait.
We are maintaining at this point the protocols at the elementary and K-8 centers.
Something he says will change when the data show that more are getting vaccinated and fewer students are getting sick. Last week, Broward County schools began allowing high school students to opt out. Here in Orange County, a mask mandate was allowed to expire Sunday. Peter King, CBS News, Orlando.
American Airlines canceled flights today, but not as many as the more than 2,000 over the past few days due to, it says, staff shortages and bad weather. Customer Janice Honeycutt.
Are y'all going to compensate us? You can check online and maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm like, what? Yeah, it's real jacked up.
This is CBS News.
It's Dell Technologies' biggest business sale of the year with Black Friday early access deals on Windows 11 PCs. Call 877-ASK-DELL. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business.
8:03 on WTOP, Monday night, November 1st, 2021. 47 in Chantilly, getting about as cold as we expect for the overnight. Good evening, I'm Dimitri Sotis with the top local stories we're following this hour. Campaign 2021 on WTOP, the close race for Virginia governor in its final hours, with Democrat Terry McAuliffe and Republican Glenn Youngkin battling it out and trading charges over race and education here on the WTOP airwaves.
Interviewed by Sean and Hillary on WTOP, Democrat McAuliffe came out swinging at his Republican opponent. He accused Glenn Youngkin of favoring book banning, including a novel by the first African-American woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature.
He's just come out, he's closing the campaign, he wants to ban Toni Morrison's book, Beloved. Really?
Youngkin also appeared on WTOP.
So you don't think Toni Morrison's book should be banned from schools?
No, there's no such thing as banning books. This is about giving parents visibility in their kids' education.
McAuliffe says he favors raising teacher pay and expanding preschool. Youngkin promises record education funding and to press for charter schools. Dick Iuliano, WTOP News.
The polls are open from 6 tomorrow morning until 7 tomorrow evening. If you're in line by 7 p.m., you can vote. You can also drop a ballot off at a ballot drop-off location in Virginia. Need some help in making your decisions? Check out the voter guide at WTOP.com. Then be with us all evening long for comprehensive election coverage tomorrow night here on WTOP, starting at 7. You can always keep up with the races, again, at WTOP.com. Big night tomorrow. To COVID face coverings now. Is it mask on or mask off in Montgomery County? It lifted its indoor mask mandate last week after 7 days with lower COVID numbers. But then the numbers went back up, and now there's talk about whether that mask mandate takes effect again in Montgomery County.
As the county health regulation stands now, once COVID numbers go over a substantial threshold, masks have to go back on. But Council President Tom Hucker acknowledges that this one-day snapback may be too quick.
We all want to avoid the yo-yo effect of rapidly requiring and repealing a mask mandate, which leads to a lot of public confusion.
So the council will be voting tomorrow to change the regulation to a 7-day average, meaning if numbers are higher than 50 per 100,000 cases for a week, only then will the indoor mask mandate be reinstated.
These are tough decisions. There's no perfect answer. This is all risk management.
There will be a public hearing at 1:30 p.m. before the vote. Shayna Stulin, WTOP News.
In an effort to reduce the time kids have to spend in quarantine, Montgomery County Public Schools are introducing new rules, and they follow guidance announced from Maryland leaders late Friday.
Under the Montgomery County school system's new rules, there are 3 sets of circumstances where kids have to quarantine. In one category, quarantining would occur when infected and exposed students were wearing masks. Dr. Manifa McKnight, interim superintendent for Montgomery County Schools, described the second category.
Cases where the infected and or exposed students are not wearing masks during the exposure, such as during lunch.
In those cases, kids would have to quarantine for 10 days,
but can return to school after day 7 of the close contact submits a negative PCR test taken after day 5.
Kate Ryan, WTOP News.
It's 8:06 on WTOP. Today was the deadline for all D.C. school staff members and child care workers to get COVID shots. The school system says as of tomorrow morning, 79% of staff are fully vaccinated.
Mayor Muriel Bowser says she didn't have the up-to-date numbers when the deadline hit, but that her staff would be reaching out to employers of anyone who had not reported their status.
What happens is that there's a series of processes that go into effect, and that will begin starting with notice to their employees.
The mandate that applied to teachers and school staff, bus drivers, and any child care workers in D.C. was issued in early September, and employees could claim religious or medical exemptions.
We've gotten a number of them, and a number have gotten their responses. It makes sense, however, for them to go ahead and get their first shot. For our employees, especially the ones serving children, it's important that they're vaccinated.
Megan Cloherty, WTOP News.
Still ahead here on WTOP, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, a moderate Democrat, just put a new wrench in the effort to pass the president's social spending bill. We'll hear from Liz Landers with Vice News coming up after traffic and weather. It's 8:07.
We just decided it was time to fix the roof. We knew it was about 20 years old at that point. You want to make sure you're working with someone that really knows what they're doing, somebody that you know will be around in a few years, and that you can call on and feel confident referring to friends.